May I request all of you to kindly take your seats as we are all set to move forward to the next session, which is the fireside chat. Once again, it's about bridging identity and the innovation, UIDAI's role in the age of AI and Fintech. May I invite on stage the India Financial Services Sector Leader, Global Financial Services Technology Leader from PwC, Ms. Gayathri Parthasarathy, as well as the CEO for Unique Identification Authority of India, UIDAI, Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar. Could we have a huge round of applause as they join us on the stage? I think the applause can be loud and the cheer can be loud because it's a great morning indeed. It's lovely to see all of you smile.
A very, very good afternoon, GFF. And thank you, Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, for being here. And it's indeed my privilege to have a dialogue with you and sort of discuss in terms of what can be the future and what it sort of lies ahead of us from a variety of things with respect to your phenomenally great responsibility in leading the country's biggest digital identity platform, right? Many things that happen. So absolutely, I'm delighted to be here, right, in terms of doing this. So I think we all know that this is a very interesting topic and also very important one for our country on what we are doing, and also just not for the country, but also setting the stage for the globe to look at in terms of what India is doing and how we have done, right? Looking at in terms of the kind of foundation that has been laid, right? In terms of from a inclusive innovation that has been born here and executed in our land and actually covering 1.4 billion people, right, across. And also not only looking at, right, in terms of what will be the digital identity itself, but a very secure, interoperable, right, and intelligent framework that has been built till now. But the journey doesn't stop there, because the journey is always, it's a beginning, because there was always a lot of things that we can do for the future and moving ahead for our own country, and also, as I said, for the global standards, right? In terms of, towards that, maybe I would request Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar to share some initial thoughts, and then we will have some exchange of, right, in terms of questions, right?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, GFF, for giving this opportunity and organizing this session. Thank you, friends, for joining this session. It's an honor to be heading an organization which boasts of the largest digital identity program in the world. And at a population scale, with 1.43 billion Aadhaars generated till now, this platform has provided for the basis for the digital public infrastructure of the country. The foundational identity based on the biometrics has been able to establish individual identities, ensuring complete deduplication. And that has really led to inclusivity, that has led to disbursement of benefits and subsidies, that has led to financial systems, the unified payment interface, and now it is really poised for growth of Aadhaar authentication in the non-government sector. And I think it's time that it will grow by leaps and bounds. Till now, it was limited to the government sector only for the target benefit subsidies and services. But now the potential is going to be immense, and the use cases are going to be the ones which we haven't thought of today, and they'll all come in due course. Maybe next 2-3 years, you'll see an explosion.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And that's sort of pretty clear that we really need to move from just public sector to the larger private sector, the fintech, and every other, kind of forums that we can get into. So where do you see the expansion moving on, sir, from a private sector and also from a changing fintech landscape? Because it is like, I would say the expanding landscape of financial services is sort of, I would say the horizon is too big, right, from that angle. And what kind of innovative business models, or I would call them as in terms of customer experience as well, when it attached with the business models that you envisage in the emerging, right, in terms of years to come from UIDAI perspective, right?
So when we think about future, let's look about the past a little bit and see how the onboarding has happened, how the financial inclusion has happened. When the Aadhaar was conceived as a unique identity, there was a very large population in the country to the tune of about 25-30 crore people who did not have any identity with them before. And then based on the mechanism of enrollments through the introducer-based systems, based on the certificates from the public representatives, gazetted officers, they were able to gain their first digital identity in the system, and that finally led to the financial inclusion. So in a way, Aadhaar has served as a tool for inclusion. And then if we look at the Jan Dhan scheme, through which it was possible to onboard more than about 50 crore bank accounts in less than about 7 years, which the World Bank through their own report has said that in the organic growth, India would have taken about 45 years. So something which India would have taken 45 years, achieving that in 7 years and ensuring complete inclusion and with no frills accounts, zero balance accounts. So that was a great innovation in my opinion, and sheerly because of the political will. Sheerly because of the political will to do that. We are seeing a lot of challenges to biometric identities across the world. There are oppositions. We see it in Europe. We see it in the East Asia, Southeast Asia. In many countries, I don't want to name any particular country, but in general, we are seeing an opposition to the biometric identity program. But in India, it has worked successfully, and the credit goes to the political will for implementing that.
Absolutely. I think without a doubt, that's a feat which, even if you put a plan in simple terms, not easy to achieve, right? Kind of what Jan Dhan really enabled the country to do. And absolutely salute to the entire nation for doing such a big feat, right? In terms of very limited time, we could achieve that in terms of the numbers, and also the zero balance accounts, onboarding them, and making sure that everything is done as per the banking processes, KYC, everything being done is an amazing task. So thank you, sir, for highlighting that. Maybe on that note, I also would like to understand from you, there has been a new thing for the cooperative and the rural banking from UIDAI perspective. The framework has been launched. Where do you see that? And about maybe few hundreds of banks are already using the kind of framework, if I'm not mistaken. Where do you see the future of it getting to? And what do you think will be the next breakthrough in that kind of a thing from an inclusion perspective as well?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question, actually. So it's a combined effort by the UIDAI, working with the Ministry of Cooperation, NABARD, NPCI, and the cooperative banks. Most of the scheduled commercial banks are already covered through the PMLA Act, being the reporting entities, and they are using Aadhaar authentication. And they have enough resources to become our authentication user agency or the sub-authentication user agency, as we call in our language. In short, we call them AUA and KUA and sub-AUA and sub-KUA. But if you look at the district cooperative banks and their spread, In all, the state cooperative bank and district cooperative banks put together is, I think, 386 in number. So for them to actually become a sub-AUA, to have that capital for the infra which is required and the license fees which is required biannually, perhaps it would not have been possible to onboard them. And that is why this new framework has been evolved, especially for the cooperative sector. And this experience, in my opinion, will apply to now non-government entities also, because we look at many non-government entities which may be smaller and may not have the wherewithal to actually invest in the infrastructure and pay the license fees to become sub-AUA, sub-KUAs. So what we have done is a small technical thing. Instead of making them independent user agencies, we have created a single entity, the State Cooperative Bank, as the authentication user agency. And through that, there will be internal identifiers through which we can identify that this request is coming from the cooperative, this so-and-so district cooperative bank. And this will ensure that all these entities will get onboarded. And now, if you look at the cooperative banks, they are the ones who are serving the hinterland. They are serving the underprivileged, they are serving the people who are marginalized, and now this authentication facility will become available to them also, and the onboarding will become easier, it will become seamless, secure, and it will become fast, which will ensure that they will be able to access capital from these banks in a rapid manner and quickly use that to the financial benefit of every stakeholder in the system. So this learning from the same experience, we are thinking of extending it when many non-government entities try to onboard under the new SWIC rules, and many of them may like to become the AUAs, sub-AUAs, but many of them may not like to become because of the constraints. And then we can offer this facility maybe through our preferred partners, which could be actually DigiLocker, could be CDAC, and through any of these, we can extend these benefits and ensure that the non-government entities are able to use the benefits of Aadhaar authentication and then ensure that it reaches the other use cases.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for that absolutely detailed view on how it works. And this is truly last mile financial inclusion, right? At the end of the day, truly last mile financial inclusion. And maybe if you look at the globe, when we are looking at our country, we are doing many, many things in terms of covering for the last mile financial inclusion. And the focus is there, whether it is like in terms of PLMI, whether right in terms of and from the financial services sector, from banking and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, there is still at the global level, there is a limited digital infrastructure for making sure that the last mile, right, financial inclusion really, really covers that. What would be the lessons or the learnings from India, from especially UIDAI, that we can pass it on to some of the countries which has limited digital infrastructure in your view, sir? What could be the learnings? That would be great, something that we can sort of pass it on to some of the countries, I believe.
I think it's a fantastic thought because looking at the district cooperative bank structures, working in those areas where digital infrastructure is weak, although India has done really well to bridge the digital divide, three different things have happened and which have been able to create that kind of a system. One, in my opinion, is the infra in the telecom sector. The BharatNet and before that the optical fiber net program, connecting all the villages, village panchayats through that. So that has created a huge base. Second, in my opinion, which is perhaps not really known well, is the PMG Disha program. It's called the Prime Minister's Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. So over a period of about 6 years, this program went on educating one member of a family about use of digital technologies, to how to operate a mobile, how to operate a laptop, how to create an email, small things is some 48-hour interventions, educating them. And as Indians, we're proud now that we take to the technology so fast that we have been able to actually utilize all these innovations because people have adopted them. Had people been averse to that, then perhaps the success would have remained limited. And that is why, and the third is of course Aadhaar, the foundational identity. Same thing with limited digital infrastructure can be implemented in many other parts of the world, especially maybe Africa, Latin America, and in those countries also, if we can set up a foundational identity, and then with this kind of an approach, the cooperative bank framework, similarly working in those countries in the rural areas and far-off areas, and many countries which are full of islands and the connectivity is poor, there also it would be possible actually to advance the benefits of this kind of an intervention. So, and why go far actually, as I mentioned in my previous answer, that even within the country, this is going to be a great lesson for us. So we are going to use this framework for many other things.
I fully agree with you. Absolutely. We'll start at home, and we have started at home. And of course, the learnings can go to some other countries. That will be great. But it's been a wonderful initiative. I just want to little move to the future. Maybe it's like we can call it as more right in terms of innovation in the digital identification area, or we can call it Aadhaar 2.0, 3.0, whatever, right? The latest numbers can be given to that, right, etc. And a lot of innovation is being considered, right? What are your top priorities on this innovation list, right? In addition to what we have done till now, what will be the future looking like, including AI and including like, I will, call it as SSI, sovereign self-identity kind of concepts that can be introduced. And of course, data privacy being very, very important without a doubt, right? And the trust, which cannot be broken at any point in time, because innovation always comes with an amount of risk. There is no doubt about it. So how do we counter that? And what would be your dream in terms of the next phase of digital identification?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. I'll split the answer in two parts.
Sure.
As far as the biometric identity is concerned, it's based on a very, very robust system. And UIDAI has also been able to develop an in-house ABIS, the automatic biometric identification system, which actually ensures biometric deduplication. So, in my opinion, a lot of innovation is not going to happen in that field, but the innovation is going to happen in use cases. The AI is going to be used more in fraud prevention, because as the use grows, and we have seen in the past, people trying to enroll through mixed biometrics, anomalous biometrics, and that is where we brought in the AI models. Similarly, in the face authentication, there are the AI models. Then now we are thinking of using AI models for document verification when people submit those documents for that. Use of AI chatbots for increased customer satisfaction, handling of the grievances. These are some of the areas where the artificial intelligence will play a very, very important role. Coming to the second part of the question, the privacy is extremely important. And if we look at Aadhaar Act, then when it was framed, the concept of privacy and the Digital Personal Data Protection Act was not in existence.
That's right.
And of course, there was a lot of concern about privacy. And as a result, privacy was implicitly inbuilt into the Aadhaar Act. And in fact, if we compare today the current DPDP Act or the practices in other parts of the world, including GDPR and all, the Aadhaar Act is far more stringent. It puts far more obligation. It asks for protection, privacy, not sharing. So without the user consent and without an entity getting a approved use case under the SWIC rules or falling under the Section 7 or the other sections of the Aadhaar Act, unless an entity becomes a requesting entity, UIDAI cannot share the data, even with the consent of the Aadhaar number holder. Not possible. And if we were to actually align the Aadhaar Act with the current practices in the privacy domain, then perhaps we will have to make the stringent requirements of the Aadhaar Act more relaxed. We'll have to actually bring it down, not take it up. Right. So Aadhaar Act by design ensures privacy, ensures protection, ensures security, and it is the mandate given in the statute itself. It does not come from only the administrative obligations, no. The law says so, that UIDAI authority will ensure all these provisions. And above everything, the one line which is written in the law says that core biometrics will not be shared with anybody under whatsoever reasons. Under any circumstances, it will not be shared. So the core biometrics enter the UIDAI CIDR, which is the Central Identities Data Repository, and remains there. It is used, one, for the deduplication at the time of enrollment. And when somebody does a biometric update, so it is used for those purposes only. And it is never shared with anybody under any circumstances. So Aadhaar Act ensures highest standards of privacy through a law.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So we can definitely qualify it almost like zero knowledge proof kind of a thing, because we are not sharing any data unless, right, in terms of authentication for verification without revealing the data. That's the way it operates, which is definitely one of the key principles of data privacy security in a highly, I would say, important environment that we operate upon, right? But you also may be right in terms of it will be lovely to hear your insights, in my view, on the hyper-personalization is getting the need of the hour, right? It is becoming like, can I get only what I want to see, what I want to do, right? In terms of the customer experience and the hyper-personalization, especially if you apply hyper-personalization to citizen services for the country, it is a complex thing, right? Because how do you manage, how do you balance, right? How do you get, sort of the, maybe I will start from a contextual authentication kind of an approach, which we may need to really move to. So how do you see the future coming up in hyper-personalized citizen services, sir, in the country? That would be wonderful to hear your insights on that topic.
So authentication has certain limitations. And today, in terms of authentication, we provide two kinds of responses. One is known as the yes or no response, and other is known as the eKYC response. So eKYC response has 5 fields. Yes, no, of course, as you understand clearly that it is yes or no only. eKYC has 5 fields. So there is the name, the gender, the address, the date of birth, and the photograph. So the financial institutions majorly require the eKYC response, while many other entities do not really require the eKYC response. For them, yes or no is enough. And if you look at the numbers, from about 90 million authentication per day that we do, 75 million is actually yes or no. So only about 15 million is an eKYC authentication. So largely it is yes-no authentication. But in my opinion, now authentication as is limited by law to the requesting entities, you have to get an approval with your use case. So in near future, when I look at this, sharing of verified credentials will be the norm. So instead of going really into authentication, and every entity may not require authentication. Correct. So let's take an example of a hotel check-in. Today, as we go and check in into a hotel, so we take out one physical ID, whatever it is, whether it is the Aadhaar or it's a driving license or maybe the photo ID card, any kind of this. So we hand it over to the person on the counter, and that person will either click a photograph with the mobile phone, not known whether it belongs to the individual or whether it belongs to the hotel, or maybe he'll go into the ante room to do a photocopy with a machine, then keep a physical copy. Nobody knows what happens to that physical copy, for how long, where it is stored, who all have access to that. There's no idea. On the other hand, think of a scenario, if I go to a hotel and the hotel offers me a QR code, a small QR code like the UPI QR code, and I have my Aadhaar app in my mobile and just scan the QR code and seamlessly my credentials are transferred with my consent. So that is what I see as a future. So wherever we are traveling and anybody is asking for the verified credentials and the risk appetite is low, there's always a use case depending on the risk. Now, if somebody is doing a large value financial transaction, this may not work. You may really need a biometric authentication or face authentication with another factor of authentication, as the RBI is advising. But for small transactions or maybe for just sharing the identity for these kind of purposes, for entry purposes mostly, maybe you're going to a cricket stadium, you're entering an airport, you're going to a hotel, all kinds of things. And maybe even for the entities who do onboarding. Let's say a taxi aggregator is onboarding a driver. Maybe a food delivery app is onboarding a delivery boy. Correct. So all these use cases can be handled through the sharing of verified credentials, which is based on international standards. And they can not only be used here because they are based on interoperable international standards, they can be used worldwide. So anywhere it can be used. And there can be different technical arrangements to share these credentials. It can be through QR code, as I mentioned. It could be through an intent call into the app. So one app calling the Aadhaar app and taking the credential. Or it could be even through the user, the Aadhaar number holder, pushing the verified credential or the identity into a more popular wallet and keeping it there, and then through that wallet using it world over. Think of one case. Say we all buy mobile phones. We have our IDs, email IDs, based on which we log in, onboard onto the mobile, and then our contacts and everything gets synced. So in India, the number of email IDs which are used on mobiles is almost 3 times the mobile numbers. It's interesting. So why should that happen? People will lose data, and many people are not even aware about email IDs. In fact, the shop selling the mobile phone the person in the shop will help to onboard and with a new email ID. So if these email IDs could be linked with Aadhaar at the back, and the Aadhaar app is in the OS, Android or iOS, wherever, it is a pre-installed app, I don't need to do anything. When I buy a phone, I straight away go to the Aadhaar app and onboard myself onto that phone, and everything gets synced. All my emails, contacts, everything comes to the phone just by one click of a button without going through all these challenges. So these kind of things are the near future. I don't see that it will take very long. Very soon we'll start these things happening, and I'm sure the users will have great experience.
Absolutely. Phenomenal it will be. And I can't agree with you more on that seamless integration of, Aadhaar with multiple other, in terms of the use cases that we really need to. We don't need to go through individual authentications at all. We can just, I will call it as, right, in terms of Aadhaar APIs that can be used by, right, in a technical term, Aadhaar APIs that can be used by multiple use cases that is needed for the citizen service, right? And it could be extended to anything, including giving entry to anybody in my, community, allowing visitor to enter, allowing somebody, not to enter, or the drivers or somebody to, be parking your car, or it can be extended to innumerable use cases if we look at from that perspective on opening and having a seamless API integration, right, per se. From that angle, the use cases will be very, very good.
Maybe if you allow me one more minute.
Yeah, sure. Take your time.
Think of a scenario that you walk into a shopping mall and there is a POS machine with a camera on it, and I don't carry anything. I don't have a wallet. I don't have any credit cards, debit cards. My bank account is linked to my Aadhaar number. My Aadhaar is linked to my face. So on this point of sale machine, I show only my face and authorize my bank to make payments. I walk into an ATM. The ATM has a screen and a camera. The ATM account is linked to bank. Bank is linked to Aadhaar. Aadhaar is linked to face. So I show my face on the ATM, and I withdraw as much money I want, depending on my limits. So these are the use cases. And now, depending on the risk appetite, the regulators have to enable it. Partly it is already there. And I'm not talking about fiction. I'm talking about reality. The Aadhaar-enabled payment system works on the same principle.
Exactly. That's why I said payments has to get seamlessly integrated. Sir, how do you see, maybe, I don't know how we are doing on the time, but I think we have a couple of minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Sir, I would like to hear also, how is the sort of, right, in terms of collaboration or the consultation and working with the regulators to make sure that these kind of innovations are, one, quick and it reaches the citizens at the earliest, and also definitely they are, right, in terms of in line with what the regulators do have as, in terms of the goal to achieve, because it has to meet somewhere, right? Because otherwise we can imagine multiple use cases which will be so wonderful for each one of us when we think through that, right? Just on that thought.
Regulators, by nature, have to be risk averse. It is their job. Their job is to make things secure, safe, look at the risks. I don't blame them. On the other hand, the innovators, developers, they are like bulls. They have to push things, that this needs to be done. And then the two have to work around and maybe reach some consensus in between. Not everything that the innovators and developer want can be done, maybe because of law or because of privacy or because of security risks and all those things. And at the same time, the regulators have also to leave some ground for the innovators to allow the innovations to happen and maybe do pilots, do proof of concepts, and then estimate the risk, and based on that, allow further use. So I think this will keep happening between the two. The good thing is what I am seeing at that major ministries, including the Department of Economic Affairs, Department of Financial Services, are on the sides of the innovators and pushing their things with the regulators. So I'm sure the future is bright.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. I think it's really been insightful to hear your views and how not only we have built it and what we can do to enhance it further on an ongoing basis, right? It's an amazing journey, and as I said, the journey only continues, right? And I think when we look at and what we heard from, right, the CEO of UIDAI, and he holds the responsibility to run this organization, which is so critical and the backbone for the countries, right? If I have to sort of put it in a line, the accountability, the trust, and future ready at the same time in terms of digital identity plus, right? In terms of everything that comes in, that's what it entails. and it's been wonderful listening to your views. Sir, maybe some closing remarks from you, and then we will be, I think, up with our time slot as well. Thank you.
So thank you once again. Thank you everybody for attending the session in large numbers and being patient with the questions and answers from the stage. The Aadhaar is playing the foundational role in the DPI, will continue to do so in the future also, but it is for the innovators to come out with new use cases and push entities like UIDAI also to come out with solutions which comply with the law, comply with the regulations, but at the same time allows new and new use cases of the future. We would be really happy to work together. We are already working, looking at various kinds of risks, giving playground to the people in our sandbox environment to work on their models, especially in the authentication ecosystem. Similarly, our Aadhaar app, I'll request everybody to actually experience the Aadhaar app at our pavilion in the exhibition area. And also looking at the safety issues with the face authentication, where we have launched a grand challenge. And we have said that all those who are working in this field, they should come ahead and work together with us to make the system trusted. So UIDAI has been the cornerstone of the trust of the identity. And that has what led to proliferation of so many other things. That is what we want to ensure. We want to ensure the continued accuracy of our databases. We want to ensure that the concerns of the citizens are taken care of by us, and there is no misuse of any kind of personal data that we have. Though we already have a very limited personal data, in fact, most of the entities want more data, which lies with other organizations. Perhaps they need to work with those entities who are owners of that data, and perhaps link the identity from the UIDAI with the relevant records from the other owners, and I think streamline their use cases. I want to assure from our side, from the UIDAI, that our team is working day and night, everybody right in the tech center to the headquarters to the regional offices. We are trying to make the experience smoother. We are going to launch this Aadhaar app maybe in the next month. We have been asking people to come to the Aadhaar centers for certain updates, especially the mobile number update, which is, in our opinion, a risky thing to allow online, because mobile is mostly used for OTPs. And if somebody changes the mobile in your Aadhaar without your presence, it can actually be a complete hacking of your identity and also your financial system. And that is why we ask physical presence of the person at the Aadhaar center and do an authentication with the biometrics so that mobile number can be changed in the Aadhaar. But with the face authentication and in the Aadhaar app, being securely onboarded onto the registered mobile number, checking through that and allowing those services with the face authentication, we should be able to provide these services from the comforts of your homes. So your address updates, mobile number updates, and in due course, the documents and other updates, except for the photo update, which is actually requiring the biometrics. The fingerprints and iris is required for a photo update. So all three are clubbed. They cannot be separated. And that is why this will be one thing for which people will still have to go to the Aadhaar centers. But all other services, in due course of time, we will bring on the Aadhaar app for the convenience of the Aadhaar number holders. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the audience also.